It's time to check your money with America's money maven, Vicki Brackens. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. Vicki, how you doing?
Hey, George.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. But before I go too far, let me give a shout out and a round of applause to Mr. Michael Jennings, because Michael Jennings has been hanging and holding it down for the last, what is this, 4 or 5 weeks now?
Yes.
As the friendly neighborhood advisor. I actually had somebody who wrote in and told me they liked the friendly neighborhood advisor. I got a little attitude with that.
Okay.
I was so happy to see that. Okay.
That's nice.
Absolutely. Okay. The two of you have been having a great time over the last month or so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, well, George, I want to sort of tail back and go back to a couple of subjects that we have dealt with over the years. This is really going back into the archives for sure. And really, I'm going to call this segment "There's No Place Like Home."
No place like home. Okay.
And the reason I'm calling it saying it's no place like home because I want to talk about home ownership.
Ooh.
Okay, but in a very different light, I hope,
Mm.
to give everybody sort of a heads up of concerning home ownership. Now, you know that there's a lot of conversation that has gone around, and I've told you this before, one of my favorite podcasts happens to be Earn Your Leisure.
Earn your leisure.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
a lot of you have listened to Earn Your Leisure. I listen to it on Spotify, but I'm sure it's carried on many other places. Do you listen at
Yeah,
times, George?
it's on you. It's on YouTube. It's on wherever you get your podcast.
Wherever you get your podcast. And I really like Rashad and Troy because of their energy and many of the subjects and the guests that they bring on. But I've heard, and I'm going to make sure I get this right. I've heard Troy, I believe, okay, say on many occasions that he wished he never bought a home.
Mm,
Okay? And I know what he's saying.
what is he saying?
What he's saying is that he built a home
Ah.
from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And building a home, okay, from scratch, okay, at least from what from the conversations that he's had, I've had clients and even myself once who built a home from scratch. It is a pain in the butt to build a home from scratch because you think about it. George, would you try and build a car from scratch?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, think about the numbers of parts and decisions and all the things that you have to contend with, all the contractors that you have to deal with, all of the little things that can go on. It can be a pain in the butt to build a home from scratch,
Yeah.
which is why most of us, when we get ready to buy a car, we go to the dealership and we buy the options,
Yes.
okay, and to enhance it and make it something of our own. But anyway, not to go too far off on that, I wanted to really look at what's going on with home ownership right now because we're starting to see what I would call deja vu all over again
Mm.
in the home housing market. And we want to give everyone a little bit of a heads up as to some of the changes that we're starting to experience. Now, a lot of those changes, I will say, happen to be outside of our current 315 area.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a nice bubble,
Yeah.
315 in the Syracuse, Onondaga County, upstate New York area because of the tremendous
Mm-hmm.
economic growth that's taking place. But I'm speaking more on a national level when we talk about home ownership right now. And so let's go back and look at a couple of statistics I want to make sure everybody's up to speed on. Right now, about 65%, 65 to 66% of American households own their own home. That's a great number. Okay, it's been increasing year after year. That total value works out to about $35 trillion as far as total value currently that is represented in home ownership. When you take that, okay, and look at the individual, most people who own a home that own that equity value, the home value that they have represents about 45% of their net worth as of 2021. So
Mm.
it's a huge, and in
It's a
fact,
big number.
A lot of times when somebody sits down and we do a financial plan for them and we look at this pie chart of what's represented in your asset base, always that home ownership area is a dominant number represented in their net worth. But when we also look at the total value of the net worth of equity in homes against what the total value of net worth is for the country, 35 trillion is home ownership, 160 trillion is the total net worth. So again, we're talking about almost a third of that number, okay, is represented by, excuse me, about 20% of that number is represented by home ownership. It is a huge driver in the economy. So we have to always pay attention to what's happening to home ownership as to how it skews the positive or negative position in the economy. And I recall, George, now I know you're a historian, that okay, when the Constitution, we talk about the Constitution a lot now, when the Constitution was written and all the people who were able to vote, they were individual men of what?
Land owners.
Land owners.
Yes.
Land
You know
owners.
that's right. You know I know that.
So if land ownership was that important, and we're coming back from World War, was it World War II and World War One, land ownership was the emphasis as far as building the middle class. When we look at, okay, as far as the voting patterns, everything is about land ownership. There is no way in the world when we have $45 trillion of value that represents about half of the full value of anyone who owns a home, who represents about 20% of the economy, that we can ignore. Here's my point, that we can ignore what's happening in the housing market. So now what have you heard lately, say over the last couple of years, about home ownership and the value of homes and the availability of homes, etc.? What have you heard, George?
Cyclical is what I've heard.
Cyclical?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I've heard. Although right now seems to be that home ownership. I would see now. I'm thinking of
What about pricing? What have you
no,
heard?
no. Okay, so the pricing is up. Homes,
Pricing is up.
yeah, pricing is up. That's
Up,
that's
up,
where I was
up,
gonna
up,
go.
up.
Up,
Okay.
up, up. Right, right,
Okay. Up, inventory is down, 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 down. Okay.
right.
Which is driving pricing up, 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 up. All of a sudden, in the last 3 months or so, first we got a crest, and now we're actually getting a decrease in value for the first time in many years, since the pandemic, in fact. In some of the hot spots around the country, and what I mean by hot spots, areas where we had the most growth, like Dallas, Atlanta, San Francisco, Phoenix, those hot spots,
Right.
value is down almost 20%.
Mm.
Activity is down almost 20%. And so what that's telling us is that while we don't see it in the top line numbers yet, underneath the surface, we're starting to feel the impact of tariffs. We're starting to feel the impact of the possible recession, and we're definitely starting to feel the impact of a shift in the economy. So here's what I call the canary in the coal mine
Hmm.
kind of signal. If you are not ready on your cash basis to walk through a shift in the economy, please get ready.
Mm.
Please get ready. You know, who was that? Yogi Berra?
Yes.
Deja vu all over again.
Deja vu all over again.
Okay, deja vu. We've lived this once before. Here's some other things that we're starting to see. Some of the deals that are being made, because it's taking now in those, particularly those hotspot areas, it's taking longer for a home to, you heard before, oh my God, my house sold in 2 hours and I had 15 offers and everything was bid up, up, up. Okay. Now, what's happening is in order to get homes to move, incentives are being added, anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 incentives, as far as the seller having to buy down the mortgage and the points for the potential buyer. So the market has shifted from a seller's market to a buyer's market for sure in these big cities. Things are happening as far as the length of time that it takes for a home to turn over. And in fact, what we call recension rate, meaning putting a house out for market on the market and then pulling it off because it's not selling. Because historically, we know that if a home stays on the market too long, it's almost like it gets jinxed. You gotta move it or either pull it back and wait and come back at a different time. All of those things are starting to happen. So what I'm saying as far as getting ready is you need to consider, this is not, by the way, this is not an absolute recommendation. This is a general area of information and education. If you have particulars, you need to reach out to your own advisor for this, but consider this. It may be time to lock in your equity positions in your home. Well, how do you do that?
I was going to say, what does that mean, Vicki?
Okay. Right now, you've got a house maybe you bought for $50,000 and it's now worth $300,000. So you have basically $250,000 of equity. But if the housing market starts to go down, you're going to basically, on paper at least, lose that equity position. But if you lock it in, meaning you turn it into cash or something that is represented by cash, you have locked in that equity position. So I'm recommending that everybody take some time and learn about home equity lines of credit, or HELOCs. Home equity lines of credit. This is different than a home mortgage. It's different from a home equity mortgage. This is a home equity line of credit. A home equity line of credit, basically after getting an appraisal, the bank will say that you have available here X amount of equity that can be used in the future. Not today, but in the future at a given time based on a stated interest rate at the time or at the time of use. It does not create a new debt. It creates a bucket that's available to you in the future that's already pre-approved. Now, you'll have to go through an appraisal and you have to go through a credit check like anything else, okay? But what it does is it now freezes, it protects that bucket of available equity so that you can use it if need be in the future.
Now, let me ask you this, because I would be, as an advisor, how do you prevent yourself from using that equity? So that's not a bad question, right?
It's a great question. This is where discipline is extremely important. Okay? But the reason I'm saying to at least look at this as a possibility is that if there is a layoff, you can't go and apply for it too late. You don't have income to justify the home equity line of credit. If there is a downturn in the local market as far as home value, the availability of what you could have gotten in the past is going to be smaller because the home value has come down, the equity position has come down. What you have to do, though, you now have this available as a level of a particular or possible credit. You've got to be as conscientious with this as you would be with any other type of credit, because you don't want to access it unless it's really necessary. Because once you access it, so let's say in the example that I had before, you had a $250,000 line of credit, you would be able to use that line of credit either all at once or in increments. That would create then an interest payment that's necessary in order to sustain that loan. So now you have two loans. So only if you have an absolute need, this is a safety net measure. The safety net measure that would be available to you in case in the future. Okay. You got it, George?
I got you.
Okay. Here's the reason also that I'm looking at this. I noticed also that we're starting to get, because I've been around a long time, we're starting to get some of what I call financial engineering going on concerning the types of mortgages that are being offered to the public. Things like, and there's nothing wrong with an adjustable rate mortgage, but if you have an adjustable rate mortgage that has no cap on it or has unrealistically low opening values and then ratchets up over a period of time, very rapidly, more than likely you won't be able to afford that in the future. What happened in the financial crisis when we had the homeowners crisis before, the mortgage crisis before, is that there was a lot of financial engineering around mortgages. Here's some other things that I'm starting to see in the literature. Mortgages are being offered under what's called no documentation. You know what a no documentation mortgage is, George?
No.
Hi, I don't have to show you that I actually have a job. I don't have to show
Really?
you that I actually have the money.
What?
I just have to show up with the money necessary for the down payment and have a credit rating of X. No docs. Okay.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. So that means that the banks are stretching the qualifications. Okay, not but and the mortgage companies, particularly secondary mortgage companies, are stretching the qualifications because the activity is slowing down, and the activity slowing down means that they're not collecting the fees that they need, and so they need to increase the number of people who are applying for mortgages. Those types of financial engineering processes is what led to the housing crisis before, when we had mortgages that crashed and when we had Lehman Brothers go down and so forth. Those are the things that I get concerned about, and wanted to make sure that we at least start take care to possibly lock in some of your home equity through home equity lines of credit. Make sure your cash positions are in good shape, and understand that if you are looking to, in the future, purchase real estate, having cash also is a good thing, George, because
It's
there
a good
might be
thing.
some sales coming on very soon, especially in some of the hot markets. Okay.
Yeah, you've always been a proponent of having cash, which is interesting because so many play. I give you a perfect example. I was making a purchase recently, and I had huh?
They wouldn't take your money, would they?
No, the person told me this is an individual, not even a business, and it was like, oh no, 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 no. Do text me or whatever, like do the app. I was like,
Had that happened to me, I'm going like, what? It was almost like I had brought out voodoo.
right, right. I was like, cash always works. But they were like, no, 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 no. Who carries that? So I had to listen, Vicki, I had to put the money back in my wallet and Venmo or whatever it is that they wanted to that money. Like, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, well, here's even crazier, George. I tried to tip an Uber driver who wouldn't take my cash.
Wouldn't take it. No. You had to go
No,
back into the app and put the money on the app. Well,
yes.
although what city were you in? Because I know some places
Syracuse.
Syracuse. Yeah.
Syracuse. Okay. All right. Syracuse. So, but I still am a proponent of having, okay, let's say, when I say cash, I mean liquidity. You
Liquidity.
need to
Yeah.
have liquidity in order to take advantage of, to be prepared for issues and to take advantage of opportunities,
Yeah.
because liquidity
No.
will always win. Okay?
And now again, it's a little bit off, but you've told us in the past that you should have at least 6 months.
That's right.
That's what
Six,
you
look
told
at you,
us.
George, okay?
Come
Have at least
on.
6 months of expenses available at all
At all
times.
times.
At all
All
times. Okay?
times.
All
Right?
times. Okay. All times. Okay. All right. Well, listen, I thank you, George. It's been fun to
Yeah,
talk to you
it's
again.
been fun. Listen, Vicky, before you go,
Okay.
this week, before you go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, as a native Texan, the significance of Juneteenth to
Oh
you,
my goodness.
right? Growing up in Texas, where the holiday originated and all of that, what was Juneteenth?
When I moved to upstate New York and nobody knew about Juneteenth, I was stunned. Now, it's been a long time since I've been here almost 40 years.
Right.
Okay. Juneteenth, okay, which is the celebration of the fact that the enslaved people of Texas finally received the news through Galveston, Texas, that they had been emancipated 2 years earlier. We never wanted that fact to be forgotten again, and we celebrate still to this day the announcement that came through concerning the emancipation of all enslaved people there in Texas. And we're so proud as Texans to have spread that spirit of emancipation across the country so that now that is a federal holiday forever.
Yeah, and in fact, Texas was the first state to have Juneteenth as a state
That's
holiday.
correct.
So you've had it for years. I think it was
Well, basically all my life.
right,
Okay.
right. And so obviously this week, Juneteenth celebrated on the 19th of June.
On the 19th
And
of June, okay, and you know as we all know, they're at our church at Bethany
fireworks,
Baptist Church.
baby.
Fireworks, okay, fireworks were spectacular. Hearing the Negro National Anthem
Mm,
played, okay, during the fireworks display was fantastic. And George, you know what? I hope that as we all come together to celebrate Juneteenth in 2026, because we've now gone through 2025, that our commitment to each other will have grown over the year.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
absolutely. You're welcome.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. All right. And what's your shirt say?
Fathers, teachers, sons. This is
Good.
this is
Oh,
this is a design by Will Dowdell and for Forgiven Fitness. And he has a couple of other lines that he's running. One of them, a couple of other shirts. Maybe I'll debut them on the next time we get together
all right.
because
Okay.
they're all about advocating for justice. This one says fathers, teachers, sons to be kings. And
Okay, you know
so
what? I knew there was, I'm glad we kept talking a little bit. There was something I did want to remind everyone of, and I know you did it well last week, but we are having the 45th annual Freedom Fund dinner
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
this Tuesday, right?
Tuesday's coming up.
This
You
Tuesday
can
coming
still
up.
get, you can still get tickets, I'm sure, at the door. But okay, but make sure that if you that you do your best to try and be there.
Yeah,
The
let me
keynote speaker, yeah.
yeah, I can do it for you, Vicki. How about
Go
this?
ahead.
So Tuesday, June 24th at the On Center, the keynote speaker is Roland Martin. And of course, Roland has his own network, the Black Star Network. The doors open. There's a couple of VIP receptions, but the doors for everybody else open at 6, at 5 actually,
Right,
and
yeah.
then 6 o'clock. We'll get the festivities started, and then there'll be a number of award presentations throughout the community. So, yeah, please support the Syracuse NAACP and their efforts to bring the justice to the community. That's this Tuesday. If you haven't gotten a ticket, get a ticket. If you aren't able to go, make a donation and make sure that you become a member of the NAACP.
And we have on the 24th, the everybody should be going out and then voting.
This is primary day. Yes, primary day. Early voting ends today. Early
Correct.
voting ends today. So you have time today till 5 o'clock today at the early voting sites all over the community. But then Tuesday is actual primary day, and you vote for the candidate of your choosing.
Yes, sir.
You know, should I even do? I'll even do this, whoever she may be. But go ahead.
I think whoever she may be is the correct thing for you to say. Okay, Kilpatrick. Okay. All right, now George. Okay, at this point in time, I want to make sure that I say to everyone, our plate is absolutely full. Okay.
All right, Vicki Brack. Well, and do you want to tell us how to get a hold of you?
Oh, exactly. Please, it's been a while. If you have questions, okay, feel free to call us at area code 315-930-4499 or info@Brackens, BRACKENS, FSN.com.
All right. Now your what? Your plate is what?
My plate is full. Okay.
Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial member SIPC. She is America's money maven.